I'm creating this series on my YouTube channel called Don't Destroy Your Destiny Decision. So it's going to focus on decision making, but different areas of decision making within your life. So I'm going to share with you guys a quick story about some things that transpired in my life a few years ago when I was in a relationship, when I found out I was going to be a father, which essentially changed the course of my life, which in turn changed, how I thought. So a few years ago, me and this girl, we were rocking. We were in a relationship for about, I think it's about 7 months total. And, relatively early into the relationship, me and this girl, we had sex. So after a few weeks, we had sex. We weren't even in a relationship yet. My bad. We were just getting to know one another, kicking it at my crib and stuff. And we ended up having sex. All right. This is after a few weeks of us talking. So, and that's point number one. When you're rocking with somebody, when you're getting to know somebody, when you're dating, do not introduce sex, okay? Sex is for marriage. God knew how powerful it is, and we ain't sitting up here saying that sex is a bad thing. Sex is a good thing. We all know how it is. We know it feels really good. But once you start to do that, once you begin to have sex, when you open that door, it now becomes an expectation for you and that other person. It's now like, okay, if we're kicking it to a certain extent, but then it's like, all right, let's get to it, right? Like I'm getting horny, let's get after it. And so me and this young lady, this was a few years ago, we were rocking for about 7 months. We had sex very early on before we even got into a relationship. And it then became an expectation. So me and this young lady, we were having sex very often and she ended up getting pregnant. Now, the significance of this is this. The first time I met her father was me telling her pops that, your daughter is pregnant and, I'm going to be a dad and things of that nature. So it was a very, very, very uncomfortable situation to be in that moment. But what it taught me, and me and the young lady, we didn't end up working out. We ended up breaking up after that, and we ended up losing the baby. We had a miscarriage, but when I found out that I was going to be a father, it was a wake-up call. Now, I did not stop having sex completely after that because I had started dealing with some other people and ended up having more sex after that. But it was a wake-up call because it's like, dude, number one, you're being irresponsible, right? You're supposed to be waiting until marriage. You're not supposed to be a father right now. That's not the path that God has you on right now. So what are you doing? Okay, but when we introduce sex so early, when we introduce it, period, but especially when you introduce it so early, when you're dealing with somebody, like I said earlier, it becomes an expectation. And God knew that this thing is meant to be in a union of marriage because it's a powerful thing because we abuse it. If it's something that makes us feel good, if it's something that we like, we're going to abuse it because that's in human nature. We're going to overdo it and it's going to create turmoil. It's going to create soul ties. It's going to create curses because there's no limitation to it. It's like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it every single day. I'm going to get this person pregnant. This person will get pregnant, right? So number one, when you're making decisions that have to do with your destiny, specifically in a relationship, be very, 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 very sure and conscious about the person that you are possibly choosing to have kids with because you're tied to this person for the rest of your life. Okay. And that first, 18 to 21 years, you guys are really dialed in because that kid is being raised to a young adult, into an adult, you're helping pay for college and things of that nature. So when we are dealing with people, we have to make sure that we are thinking not only short term and just in a moment, but long term as well, right? If this is somebody that I want to be with, if I have this kid, I'm going to be tied to this person forever, right? And so if me and that young lady, if we would have had that kid, that would have altered my destiny drastically. It would have altered it drastically because I would be raising a kid now. I know for a fact I would not have had the number of speaking opportunities and opportunities within churches and just different things that God has brought into my life. If the baby would have been born. And so and sometimes lust and sin and things of this world, they feel good. They're good. I had a issue with smoking a lot for a second. I was a weed head, getting high all the time, drinking and stuff. They feel good. Like it feels good to your body. It feels good when you nut, you know what I'm saying? Those things feel good. But we abuse it, and it's things of this world that aren't necessarily healthy for us. So be very, very, very conscious and aware of the people you're dealing with, the people you're sleeping with, and don't be irresponsible when it comes to having kids, because number one, you're tied to that person forever. Number two, your relationship with that other parent will trickle down and have effects on the kid as well. And number 2 or 3, whatever one I was on, it can throw off the course of your future. And so God may have you on this path, right? I'm on this path going straight, but I make a decision. I say, you know what? Me and this girl gonna have a kid. And we were literally trying to have a kid, right? We would see all the cute kids and stuff on IG, and we talked about having a family and all that. So we're just smashing every day, unprotected sex, doing whatever we want to do, literally trying to have a kid. And she ended up getting pregnant, and we ended up losing the kid. But it's like, you can't force anything that's not in God's will, right? So if me and her would have had this baby, first of all, it wasn't going to happen, but let's just say me and her did end up having this kid, that would have altered the course of my life and also the course of her life, which means it's a destiny decision. It's a decision for your destiny. And so sometimes when we get in relationships, especially when we start having sex early, when we're drinking a lot or smoking a lot with the person that we're with, your judgment is clouded, which is why I'm happy I stopped having sex. It'll be a year in April. I had to plug that. It'll be a year in April, but I'm definitely more clear-minded. My judgment is more clear. I'm more aware. I see things differently through a different lens when it comes to women, when it comes to my career, when it comes to God, when it comes to family, relationships, the church, ministry, everything. And I know that has to do with sex. I know that has to do with sex. So when me and this young lady, when we were planning to have a kid, and we literally had the kid, and then we ended up losing the kid, when she had the miscarriage, it was a wake-up call. It was like, bro, you're not in control. God is still in control. And this is one thing we have to make sure we remember, is that if God did not ordain it, then he will not sustain it. If God did not ordain it, he will not sustain it. So if it's not God sent, if it's not ordained to be in that order, if it's not ordained to happen, it's not going to be sustained. So we were trying to have a kid, planning it out. She ended up getting pregnant, and God is like, this is not in your will. This is not just on your timing. So God told me, number one, you're not in control. Number two, what God was revealing to me is he said, I have way more for your life than this, kid. This is not what I have for you. I have way more for you to do, way more work for you to do. You ain't used up yet. You're not in control. And number three, he told me, if I did not ordain it, then I will not sustain it. It's just not going to happen. You can try to force it. You can pay any amount of money in this world. You can go seek counseling. You can pray to me. But if it's not in my will, it's not going to be sustained. So just think about those kind of things when we get into relationships, or when we start to talk to somebody or date somebody or have sex with somebody or start having kids with different people. Those decisions can literally throw off your destiny and throw off what God has for you. Keeping God at the center, at the foundation of your relationship. I was reading a text message. Keeping God at the center of your relationship. Getting into your word. Praying fervently. Praying frequently. Praying faithfully. Building a foundation on Christ. Not living perfect, because nobody's perfect, but separating yourself from the world and doing the best that you can to live a righteous life and to make good decisions. Those things are going to keep you on the right path. And those are all things that me and you know are things that will get us to the right path, but it's not a difficult thing, because the world and that temptation and that flesh, listen, our flesh is weak. And so the devil creeps in, or we start doing things with our homies or whatever, and then we get sucked back into the world. But you have to remember, if God did not ordain it, he will not sustain it. And so when me and her were planning to have a kid, and we ended up having a kid, and we ended up losing the baby through the miscarriage, it was a wake-up call for me that, number one, you're not in control. God is in complete control. Number two, God is letting me know that I have way more planned for you. I have way more planned for you than this. But if you keep trying to take things into your own hands and take control of your own life, then I'm going to end up teaching you a lesson. And so while I understand it was a negative situation that me and a young lady went through, I understand it was a blessing because it woke me up. Now, I was still sinning and doing things I had no business doing after that. I was still having sex. I started drinking and smoking and things like that. And even that situation I slid by. But God is showing me you're not in control. And are none of us in control? We're not. So I'm praying that this video blessed you. My Instagram is Nate Jameson Speaks, NateJamesonSpeaks. My Twitter is Speak Nate Speak, SPEAK, NateSpeak. And my Snapchat is NJ Jameson, NJ Jameson. And let me know if this video helped you out. If you want to like, comment under it, share it, subscribe to my channel, share this video with whoever needs to hear it. Remember, this is going to be a series, so I'm going to probably do about 3 parts with this Don't Destroy Your Destiny decisions series. So what we covered today was decision making in the midst of relationships, making sound decisions. Because when we start including sex and when we start drinking a lot and smoking a lot, things of that nature, we don't make sound decisions. It is what it is. Number 2, I'll come up with some more parts that I want to lay out for this series, but I'm praying that this blessed you. And if it did, please let me know. If it didn't, let me know. If you didn't like the video, dislike it, do whatever you feel is in your heart. But follow me on my social media sites as well.